Jake, aren't you getting tired of all these kind of like mid first party PlayStation games?
No.
No?
No, absolutely not. Oh, did you think I was going to say yes?
Oh,
were you trying to start a whole
podcast
PlayStation hate train?
No, not a hate train.
You're so mad that we get Soros.
I don't get mad.
You're so mad that we have things like Marvel Tokens coming out in the fall.
Tokon's going to be that's I think the exception to the rule, to be entirely honest.
A critical error is an error which the OS cannot reasonably ignore. Jake Steinberg is a streamer, writer, and certified yapper. Complimentary. Peter Hunt Szpytek is a YouTuber, journalist, and certified yapper. Derogatory. These are the things they cannot reasonably ignore.
You know, every so often I come across this take online from somebody who's like talking about the PS5 price going up, and they'll be like, oh, but it doesn't matter because like PlayStation has no games.
Yeah, I always find that to be kind of weird because like they do have games. Like
I feel like they have games too.
Yeah. I find it to be kind of a weird thing because I understand I get the joke, but it's kind of like the joke is not relevant anymore because I think they do have games.
But I also believe that there are people out there who do believe and feel like PlayStation 5 has no games. And I would like to hear from those people. I do kind of like want to better render my understanding and see the light of where they are coming from when they look at their PS5 and they're just like, oh my God, it is a desert out here. Because to be completely honest with you, I feel like I should feel that way. I feel like I'm about as close to feeling that way as one who is like hardcore into video games can feel, to be honest with you. Because I look at the games that I'm like playing on my PlayStation 5, it's a lot of multiplayer stuff. It's maybe stuff that's like third party available on other consoles. And then maybe every now and then there is that first party hit. But largely something that I've been feeling more and more over time is this sense. And again, I'm curious if other people have this sense as well, that the Sony PlayStation first party sheen, the PlayStation Studios, if you will, game is starting to lose its luster for me. And
yes,
the further we go into the PS5's life, the more I feel like I am lacking enthusiasm for everything that this company has coming out. Something is missing for me. We talk a lot on this podcast about kind of the failings on the Xbox side of the console ecosystem. But I think like when I examine the PlayStation side, something that I'm noticing is almost like I don't even know what they could show me at this point that would really light me up in the same way that like a new Nintendo game lights me up. In the way that like I see a Nintendo game and I'm like trying to understand it. I'm trying to be, what kind of game is this? We talked about that not very good Splatoon Raiders trailer last week, but even that had a quality to it where I'm like, what are you doing here? Is this something? Is this? And that kind of serves to pull me in. It's like a bid for connection through curiosity. And I'm finding that kind of bid for connection with PlayStation is not based in curiosity, intellectual or emotional. It is instead based in recognition. And that's starting to, So
I think people who are like really diehard Nintendo fans are actually very similar to people who are like diehard like PlayStation fans. I just think that like what they are looking for is different. So like with Nintendo, you identified like, okay, people who like are going to play every single Nintendo game. I think they're really excited, first of all, to see the franchises they've been seeing since they were kids. Right. But it's also like, I think Nintendo is pretty inventive with a lot of its IP, especially like right now. It's kind of in a weird era where it's like trying a bunch of new stuff. And so I think the thing that people are really like excited about with these Nintendo games is like, well, I know that at the very least, Nintendo's going to be taking some swings about some of this stuff, right? And Sony, like first party stuff, I think for the most part, the people who are really, really diehard Sony fans are like, well, at the very least, I know that I'm going to see some well-rendered faces, some beautiful vistas, and probably some like competent third-person action, right? But I think that like the thing about those like PlayStation first party like diehard fans is that because so much of that just is like, because so much of the desire is something that is kind of like, I'm not trying to say copy and pasteable because obviously they're all different, but like the actual attraction to those games, to me, as is from my perspective, seems to be just the fact that they look really nice. Do you know what I mean? And not that they are like inventing new things a whole lot of the time.
I like that you listed kind of those elements that are consistent across the Sony first party games, because I think what's happening there, what you identified for me, is that there is this kind of noticeable house style that Sony games appear to have. And if you like, before you even get into whether or not you think these games are like good or not, I think that there is something that like that third person narrative forward, high fidelity, the performance captured game, the heavy emphasis on the cinematic presentation. You think of like, you know, the Last of Us games, God of War games, Horizon, Spider-Man. Game aside, and what you think about those games, the system of delivery and kind of what they're chasing is really similar.
Yes.
So I think even without being like, oh, PlayStation washed, PlayStation bad, I think the fact that like all of these different studios at PlayStation, the fact that they, for me, it feels like they're chasing the same thing. So what the game is just like converging into one thing, which 100%. Is eliminating like so much enthusiasm for me, because like alternatively, what is like Nintendo chasing?
Right, and that's the thing is I think the thing that Nintendo is chasing, at least right now, again, is I think they are chasing like innovation in gameplay systems. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not so successful.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, I do think that that's what they are chasing, which means that like each of those individual games is going to have a different goal, I think, and you're going to walk away feeling a different thing. Whereas I do think that so much of the PlayStation first party lineup is just chasing like HBO drama series. You know, and there are exceptions. And here's the thing: in the comments, people are gonna be like, "Peter,
Astrobot
Marathon," and I'm like, "Yeah,
Marathon."
And
oh yeah, I can't wait to glaze
awesome.
Marathon.
Like that's the thing is, it's like that's great. Or they, you know, that Marvel Tokon fighting game is coming out later this year, and it's like right. No, but what makes that interesting, and I think what is going on there, and the, like draws so much attention and interest, is that it is different. And that is not going to be the exact sort of same flavor of video game that I think Sony is really, really interested in sort of returning to.
Yeah, and I do think it's worth mentioning too, just to get ahead of it, that like, you know, Marathon, developed by Bungie, of course, acquired by Sony, not quite the same, you know, that's a property that existed before Sony bought them, not quite the same as like kind of, you know, that document was not first typed in the Sony PlayStation font, if you will.
Yes.
And, you know, Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, developed by Arc System Works, who people, you know, it is being, I think, published by PlayStation.
I was going to say, that's not a first party game, is it? It's just published, right?
No. Yeah. So I think like the thing that I'm kind of interested in examining a little bit here is the relationship. You know, we talk a lot about like how critics talk about games on this show, and I'm almost more curious in the fan relationship in this particular instance that I am in how critics talk about these games. Because something that I've seen emerging, and maybe this is imagined, so I'm kind of leaning on the comments more to see if they feel me in this episode, but something that I have felt with Sony PlayStation games, and something that I've similarly felt with Nintendo, is that there is a growing capitalist desire to make sure that the games that you are investing in are more than games. They're also multimedia properties. So this is continue. So I think there's like stuff that falls to the wayside because that is what you are pursuing. So, for example, the Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei things, I think we've already got like a series or a movie in development for those. Same with like Horizon. And then when you look at a studio like Insomniac, who knows when we're going to get another Ratchet and Clank game, because we've got
probably
kind
never,
of
right? Based on that like roadmap leak that came out.
So right, and there's like a relationship there with Sony and Marvel where like I kind of get what's going on there. So, but what I think is kind of interesting here is that I think if you look at Nintendo and you look at the Super Mario Galaxy movie, there is a read of that movie that I think is like, they were not interested in making a good movie. They were interested in kind of brand appeal so that they could eventually sell you a video game. But there is no video game made in the image of a movie. There is no Ratchet and Clank the movie, the game.
Wasn't there? Am I crazy? Wasn't there?
No, there is, but not for Nintendo. There isn't.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So like when the Mario Galaxy movie comes out, the thing that they're pointing at you to buy is Super Mario Wonder, Bella Bell Park, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, whatever that stupid thing is, and the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 connection.
Yeah.
And like there are rumors that within the next week a Star Fox game is going to get revealed.
Yeah.
Now, will we find out that the movie used the Star Fox design that they have for this game? Sure, probably. But is this new Star Fox game going to be like, oh, they tried to make it like a movie so that they could make a movie out of this Star Fox game? No.
Right. No, but like when you look at
absolutely not
something like that Last of Us TV show, right?
Yes.
The reason is, I mean, the language of the Last of Us game is that of an HBO television drama.
Yes.
Right. And so it's pushing you then to say, if you really liked this, you're going to want to check out this video game, or vice versa, because they speak similar languages.
And do you see how the kind of the PlayStation games are chasing the language of movies and TV?
Yeah,
whereas
Nintendo,
they're doing the movies and TV thing, but the games, it feels like the games are over there just doing what they've always done to me.
Yes. No, I would agree. Where there is sort of this consolidation, I feel, of like the PlayStation first party game with like the idea of trying to be taken really seriously, because we take drama series very seriously. We take prestige film very, very seriously. And it's like, I think that is what is pushing so much of the sort of like design ideas of these sorts of games. You know what I mean? Because I think that players view PlayStation games as very serious because they're being told that they're very serious, because they're using the language of what we I think the general public views as like a serious medium, you know?
Definitely. And I think kind of looking at Returnal and Saros is maybe a really good example here, because just for clarity, you have played and beaten Saros,
I have
correct?
The platinum for Saros.
Oh, real gamer on the pod.
I know.
Nice, dude. Because you're doing like guides for it though.
I had it early.
You had to master it.
Yeah.
You had to master the Saros blade, as it were.
I was dodging through all those projectiles and whatever.
So I think that there is probably an argument to be made about how Returnal is that language of movies and TV. Maybe Returnal as a game leans more into the language of video games. And then Saros comes along and says, okay, some of that video game inherent language, we're going to push that aside for the sake of injecting some movies and TV language, as is the house style.
Yes.
Would that be
because it's this thing where like Saros leans really heavily on a lot of the things that Returnal did, but in my opinion, you can see the way that now that Housemarque is a first party studio, so Returnal was published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, but it was not. But Housemarque was not owned by Sony, and then now they are owned by Sony. And I think you can really, really, really see that influence in that this is a game that is I would call like pretty chatty. There's like a lot of like dialogue and stuff like that. And there was, some of that in Returnal, certainly, but it was largely like very moody and kind of quiet oftentimes. And this is, to me, very much like, no, we have an actor that you know from TV or movie. I think he's more of a TV actor. But it's like you recognize who this guy is, and he is going to be the face of this game, and his performance is going to be the thing that really draws people in. And I think it's at a detriment to what the actual game is, because then also it loses, as you were talking about, a lot of the elements of Returnal that were very interested in like being a roguelike and stuff like that. And Saros ditches a lot of those, I think, in favor of more wide mass appeal, which I can understand. Like, I do get why that happened, but at the end of the day, I think it makes for just a much more bland video game. You know what I mean?
I think and I think it's also one that we just we understand a lot more quickly. It is one. Yeah.
You play Saros for about 30 minutes and you go, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Easy.
And I think that even what you mentioned about kind of like using a TV actor to like sell your product is a marketing strategy very much carried over from movies and TV.
Oh,
like,
100%.
That's how you sell a movie. It's like, oh, Timothée Chalamet's in this. Get on board.
Yeah.
So I think even kind of that approach demonstrates to me maybe like like a spiritual issue at in terms of how maybe PlayStation views its own games.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I'm kind of like most interested in, because at the end of the day, maybe the ultimate truth is that people just like this more than not. Maybe
so
like
this is like the thing that like is most interesting to me, and maybe you literally just said that, but it's this idea that like okay. This is like not a novel conversation to be like, it kind of seems like these Sony games are like wannabe movies. Like, that is like not a novel idea.
No,
right?
no, not at all.
But I think what I'm fascinated by is it's like, yeah, but is this just what people really want? Is this all anyone really wants? And you know, is Soros going to sell better than Returnal because it adopts this language? I think the answer is yes. But I find it fascinating that that's the case.
Wow, I guess that's like a tough conversation, right? Because Returnal, I think, it came out very early in the PS5's life, and there's like a lot of like marketing stuff around Soros that I think is probably going to help it. More people have PS5s, of course.
Yeah, certainly.
So I don't know if like it's tough. Like, how do I really get the is Soros on stage for Game of the Year at the end of the year?
Can I be honest with you? I find it very difficult to tell based on sort of like the game review score inflation stuff that goes on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how people feel about it like in general yet, because it's not out until I think tomorrow.
So it actually is out for
it's out for people if you paid the, yes.
Dude, I was so surprised. I had never seen it. I didn't know Sony Games actually did that. I couldn't believe that was on there. Yeah, I saw that yesterday. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Sign of the times.
I know.
Sorry.
I mean, that's like an Assassin's Creed Ubisoft thing from like 8 years ago. You know what I mean? Where they're like, you want to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey right now? And I was like, whoa. Yeah. So I don't know like how general people feel about it, but if everyone who plays this feels the way that a lot of the reviews seem to have felt about it, then I think the answer is yes. And also, you know, we talked about this a little bit last year with something like Ghost of Yote, where I think Raul Coley is going to be nominated for like best performance awards in the same way that I'm forgetting what their name was, who was in Ghost of Yote. But that person,
Erika
Ishii. Yes. Erika Ishii was nominated for a bunch of stuff. And I don't think Erika Ishii is like bad in the game, but I think that they were not given a whole lot to work with. And I think it's like just a bad script in general. And I feel a very similar way about Raul Coley in this, where he's like not bad in it, but I think the script is not giving him much to work with. But I think that doesn't matter when it comes to looking at this game and looking at these types of games with like, quote unquote, like a prestige lens, because it's like, well, no, it's a performance that I recognized that's about trauma. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, you've said this before, and most visible performance, I think, is an accurate way to measure that.
Yes.
I also think that just because of how the Game Awards voting works, is that I think that there's a bit of like carelessness involved in this. Like my favorite example is last year for best video game adaptation. Are you aware of what was not even nominated and people were disappointed?
What would have come out?
Yeah, there was something that people were like, how did this not get nominated? And I can tell you exactly how it didn't get nominated, but
please enlighten me.
The third Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Oh, sure.
And
okay.
The reason it didn't get nominated was if you went to your phone and you typed in video game movie adaptations 2025, it wouldn't have shown up because it came out in December of 2025.
Yeah. There you go.
And so it's this thing where it's like, if you ask somebody,
an imperfect system,
okay, what is the best performance of the year? They're going to go, how many freaking video game voice actors do I even know?
Dude, no, this is it.
Coley, he's in the PR.
Because I remember, like, and I know we both have, you know, our feelings about a game like Metaphor ReFantazio, but I remember that game didn't get nominated for any of his performances that year. When, like, again, we sort of have our own feelings about that game, but I think for me, it was undeniable that there were some excellent performances in that game. And it wasn't nominated for anything. And at like the big game award stuff, and it was all in favor of these facial captured performances and whatever. And it's like, well, because I think when people think about like, well, what's a good performance in a video game, they are largely not thinking about, the performance of, you know, whatever character in a game that does not have any human faces in it. No one's thinking about the AI voice in Marathon when they're talking about great performances. Instead, they're thinking about Raul Coley because, hey, that's a face. That's a person that I know was doing a performance.
So they're not thinking about the AI voice in Marathon, but they are thinking about the AI voice in Pragmata.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, but that's it though, because
it has a face.
It has a face that you see and that you interact with, and it has a more human face that is not stylized. Obviously, you know, those characters are stylized, whatever, but it's like, because it's like, that's a person, you know, as opposed to just like,
wow,
that's a cartoon character or whatever.
Could one of those Marathon people get nominated for this? Ben Starr.
I mean, Ben Starr, I mean, he's, but
visibility.
But so here's something interesting about him. And I think this is like to the larger point of what we're talking about. I saw an interview with him recently where he was talking about how people recognize him in games first and then the character. And he was talking about how he thinks that's kind of fascinating because like how many voice actors are like that? You know what I mean? Like certainly there are some, but like so often is it so recognizable that like, oh, it's this guy. And then him being in the game gets to be a selling point for the game in the same way that we're talking about something like, oh, like here's an actor that, you know, Raul Coley's in this video game. And you're like, whoa, that means that game has some prestige to it. I feel a similar way about like Death Stranding 2 or, you know, Death Stranding 1, right? Where it's like, oh, an actor from a really popular thing that I knew, Walking Dead and whatever else Norman Reedus has done, John Wick, the ballerina, among other things. So it's just what came to mind.
That's good.
Yeah, this is my poll for you. That's the selling point, right? And that is what I think establishes these sorts of things as, you know, being good. But I think it's just really weird that that's how it works, right?
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. And at the end of the day, when I'm, you know, I don't know why I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about these voice actors now. I do hope, I will say, I do hope that Diana from Pragmata gets the nod.
I hope she does. She's fantastic in that game. She's so good.
But just kind of coming back to the idea of the moviness versus the video gaminess, I want to see us give a little bit more love to like when Marvel Tokon comes out, whichever character has the line that becomes the one that we all say online. Yeah. In kind of like an Overwatchy way, how some of those lines kind of you know, break out.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like Nerf this is like such an iconic, like it's like it transcends Overwatch, right? Because it's like a pop culture thing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, even there were some like Marvel Rivals lines that I saw people were doing like out in public, and it was really embarrassing on TikTok or whatever. You know what I mean? And that was like the point. But like,
and I think what's interesting to me about this here, though, is that the way that we are rendering what the concept of best performance even means is we are trying to say which performance is closest to what we would award best performance in other mediums.
Yes. So my question for you is this then too. So I'm looking at like the list of like the most recent like Sony first party published games, whatever. And like when I look at the ones that are, you know, the last year or 2 years or so, like the ones that I think that have gone down as these sort of like prestige games are the ones that are doing exactly what we're talking about. And the rest have kind of fallen to the wayside. Do you think that something like Marvel Tokon, which again isn't first party developed, but it's first party published, Marvel Tokon and Marathon, which is first party published and developed, do those go down, do you think, as like, oh, these are going to be like prestige games that people are going to recommend and be like, oh my gosh, it's fantastic? Or do they not get that because they are not the idea of like the prestige video game?
Yeah, it's tough, right? I think that like the way in which we cover and praise and uphold like great video games, you know, a fighting game can never be game of the year.
You don't think so?
No.
Because I think about like Overwatch was at, yeah, that's obviously not a fighting game, but like that's a specific genre game. You know what I mean? Back in the day.
I know. And I almost wonder if, man, it's such a confluence of things, right? Because I feel like that was a weak year.
2016, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that was a weak year, to be honest with you. I don't think it had the stiffest of competition. Yeah. Look up. What were the other nominees? I would love to know what the other nominees were if you've got that.
Oh, geez. All right, let me see.
But I also think that, and maybe this is insane of me, and I'll cop to it. If somebody's listening right now and they go, Jake, I'm sorry, that is insane of you. You can't make that claim. I think something that... Okay,
I'm sorry. Game of the Year nominees were Overwatch, Doom, Inside, Titanfall 2, and Uncharted 4.
Okay, that's actually more surprising than I thought.
That year,
yeah, it's pretty strong year.
Mafia 3, Firewatch, Abzu. Sorry, go on.
No, so... I think that a lot of heavy lifting was done by the Overwatch videos that were released on YouTube.
That's actually true. That's fair, because those were then going for the prestige sort of animation television stuff. Yeah,
it was rendered in that way, extra textually.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think that kind of helped that game out. Not to take away from the point that I think is being made here, but yeah, there's something about like fighting games that I think is just maybe the landscape has changed, but I think that they are too known in what they are and who they're for to even be kind of like considered in this conversation of what we want to say like a really great game is. Like it'll always be like, that is a really great fighting game.
Yeah. Because do you think like, is it possible to have like something that is considered a great like prestige game that is not the traditional like third person action adventure game?
You could do a first person one, I think.
Yeah, I could say, I think you could probably say like, Dishonored, Prey,
like a Wolfenstein.
Yeah. But then even then, those games are so, well,
it doesn't help. I agree that it doesn't help.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about like how each of those have those sorts of like technical like prestige elements anyway. It's so funny. So do you think that like, does this ever change, you think? My answer is no. I think
So my question with all of this is like, I feel like so like a little bit about me. I love superheroes.
Sure.
I love superhero games. Right now, as it stands, I really don't have any enthusiasm for that Wolverine game.
Yeah.
And I feel like something happens to me. Something else that you know about me is that I love roguelites. I love them. It's one of my favorite genres.
Yeah.
And a huge Returnal fan. I currently just have like no enthusiasm for Saros, and I think that there is something that has happened to me where I'm looking at the trailers or whatever for these PlayStation first party games, and there's like this effect that happens when you play fighting games where for the first week that you play them, it's like, oh my God, these graphics are so cool. Those special moves are so sick, and you're learning all this stuff and it's all hitting you a certain way. And then after a week, your brain kind of sees through it. You see underneath it and you see the timing and the numbers and you see the stuff, and the graphics aren't even on your mind. And I think that like I watch a video of Saros and I just see Returnal rendered in different colors. I just see it. Like I know what I'm looking at, and I feel like I can see the parts that are like, here's a hat on top of Returnal. When it goes to a cutscene and you've got the main character going, what's going on? it's like, yeah, I know. Like, yeah, you could have put that in Returnal. I get it. I know exactly how I'm going to feel playing this game and watching those cutscenes because I've been there.
Do you think? So is it like? I think before we started recording, you did mention like the idea that like, okay, like Marvel is still super popular, like the MCU, but like I think it has a different like fervor and connotation to it now than it did 10, or I guess at this point, 15 years ago.
The floor has fallen out from under them a little bit. And I think a lot of that is just the accumulation of these movies that ultimately feel the same.
And they're fun. Yeah. It's fun. It's popcorn. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, like that relates with it being a movie, but it's like, it's popcorn. I love popcorn, but like usually I don't like think like, oh, like this, it's not a great meal. Do you know what I mean? Or it can be for a night, but it's like, if that's all you're eating, it's just not a great meal.
There was a time when I was like excited for the next Marvel movie coming out.
Certainly.
And now it's like okay, when it comes out, and I'm gonna watch it. I might not even watch it.
I explained it to my wife, like it's kind of like nerd jury duty a little bit. We're like, well, I gotta go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when Deadpool Wolverine came out, I was like, it is an obligation I must see. And I think that's how maybe a lot of these Sony first party games feel, at least to me. I would be curious though to hear, like, I do know they are still like incredibly popular. You and I were talking earlier this week about like, I'm in a group chat with like non-games media people who are all like gaming people who I know from various, whatever. And like when the Saros reviews dropped, I sort of like chimed in just to tell them what I thought of it. And there was a pushback on sort of what I was saying because it was sort of in a more dissenting. I think Saros is fine, by the way. It's fun enough, but sort of starting to just get stale with the elements that we were talking about. And I got a lot of pushback on that from these more like Sony first party interested gamers. So I wonder if we're alone in this, or I wonder if this is a feeling that is not so popular in the mainstream yet.
It's tough because I think a huge part of what PlayStation is chasing right now is that all of the games that they put out are designed in a way where not only is there kind of this multimedia bent to them, I think they're designed in a way that they're trying to create fans and fandoms. I think that like being a Horizon fan, being like a Housemarque fan and what that means, or like, you know, I like Returnal and I'm identifying with that.
Yeah.
And I think that like there is something about these games that I think is converting people into like, I am somebody who likes this game. And like The Last of Us, I think, is in that conversation as well.
Oh, certainly.
And
is it the idea of like, we're trying to make stuff that sells merch? You know what I mean? Like,
yes. Because
obviously there's nothing wrong with that if that's, you know, part of the business model, but it feels like, well, we do need toys of Joel and Ellie now too.
So Nintendo has had this mastered for like a long time. And I think that, you know, when Metroid Prime 4 is coming out, you have so many people looking at the trailers and playing the game or whatever and going, it's more Metroid. If you like Metroid, you will this. 10 out of 10. And then I think like there are people who that's how they see a lot of these PlayStation games
that's
now.
actually such an interesting point, because literally in the conversation that I was having with my friends, and like I said, they were kind of like arguing with me a little bit, maybe pushing back on me, like for my opinion about a game that they hadn't played that I had. I did end up saying like, I think everyone in this chat is going to like this because it is more of that PlayStation first party style. So I think that is I wonder. Now maybe this is the ultimate plan.
Because I think ultimately what my thing is there too is that they create buy-in before you play the game.
Yeah.
That it's recognizable to the point that you have bought in so that you already like it before you've even played the game. It reminds me a lot of Pokemon.
Oh, sure. No, that's fair. Do you think that part of it too is the idea of like, okay, you have like Returnal, which isn't a perfect game. It had some like rough edges or whatever, and they sanded so much of it down that like I would not be like, oh, if you like Uncharted, you should play Returnal. Right? Because those are, I think, like quite different experiences, you know? But I wonder if part of the goal is to say, if you like Uncharted, you should play Saros, which I do think you could make the argument for.
Whoa. You really?
Yeah, I mean, it's different, right? They are different. But like, I could see how there's a much cleaner, like straight line between, you know, Last of Us, God of War, whatever, and Saros than there is between sort of a squiggly line to get to Returnal. I think you could say like, oh, if you like,
that's crazy.
If you like Bloodborne,
that's insane.
Play Returnal. Yeah. But I think that's because those games are sort of like exist in a different sort of sphere than Uncharted and The Last of Us and Spider-Man and whatever else.
Yeah, because I think if you imagine the square peg round hole situation, and you've got these games that are square pegs, and then you've got this round hole that is kind of the PlayStation game, the way in which you can kind of, as you put it, kind of sand off the edges to the point where the game fits in the hole. It's like, yeah, a lot of people like what this thing is, but it's now kind of
it's diluted.
It's diluted.
Yeah.
It's diluted. Yeah.
And I think that was my sort of takeaway from Saros too, is this idea of like, it's fine. Like it's all right, but I don't think it has a particularly strong identity. Because let me hit you with this. Yeah, it's that.
Let me hit you with this. This is a little bit unfair because I'm just kind of going off the very few stuff that we've been shown for it at this point. But I rewatched the most recent trailer for that Wolverine game today.
Ooh, I don't think.
And something I realized about that trailer was that, you know how like video game trailers are typically trying to be like, this is the thing. This is the thing you do in this game. Here's like the pitch. Here's the, you know, whatever. And in Spider-Man, it's so easy to imagine what that is. The second you see Spider-Man swinging around New York City, you go, I would like to play that. I would like to play that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's funny, that Wolverine trailer, I was like, what is the I'm swinging around New York City?
I have no idea.
It's just the concept of violence, which is not enough in the world of video games. And it's funny, it's like it's like Spider-Man, but you're Wolverine.
And
like that's
so
the
funny.
pitch of the game.
It's so funny because I'm like, what do you even mean by that? Because it's exactly what you're saying. Like when you're like, oh, if you're like Spider-Man, you're swinging around and fighting crime, and like Wolverine like shows up on the Quinjet or the X-Jet, you know what I mean? Sometimes, or he like rides a motorcycle around. But like, is it an open world thing? Yeah, it's tough to sell that, I think, or at least based on just saying like it's like Spider-Man but Wolverine. You're like, okay, what does that
So
even mean?
it feels like the pitch of that game is property first. It's Wolverine, and then they kind of tell you what the game is. Whereas I think what I would like is, here's this. Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot for some reason. I don't know why. This has been my go-to shower thought for the past week. Been thinking a lot about a Daredevil video game. Okay, so hear me out. Daredevil is blind, obviously, but he's got the radar sense. And I keep thinking about, in video games, like the radar sense that Daredevil has is actually just kind of like a standard
That's a very
power
standard mechanic.
That's what everyone has. Yeah. Everyone has Daredevil's radar sense in video games. And I was like, damn. So could you just make a Daredevil video game that is functionally the same, literally the same? It's just like a skin on you're playing Spider-Man, or would you have to go a step further? Would you have to say, no, this is different. Here's a limitation. Yeah. Here's something that we're putting around this to be like, oh damn, this actually feels different to be Daredevil than it does to be Spider-Man. And I think that like something that I feel about PlayStation games is that is just not a concern. You know, when you play Ghost of Yotei, do you feel differently playing as Jin Sakai than you do the
Atsu?
Oh my, Atsu.
I don't remember
the Atsu.
Name, yeah.
It's like, not really, because you're supposed to feel how you feel when you play that game.
Yes. 100%. And I think to your point here, like, I'd take it even a step further. Does Jin or Atsu feel any different from playing Miss Horizon? I'm forgetting her name. Aloy.
Wow. Whoa.
Straight up no, right?
Straight up no. Shit, that's crazy, actually. That's actually nuts. Oh my God. And straight up no.
And I think, you know, like the common like response is like, guys, they have swords and Aloy doesn't have a sword. And it's like, not what I'm talking about. Like,
but do they feel that different from playing as Ellie in The Last of Us 2?
No, same thing. Not really.
Dude, no. Yeah, wow.
And so there's this like design language that's like sort of across the board. Because then like, does Kratos feel different than those characters? A little bit, but largely, not that much.
I guess you're right. Now that it's just the kind of the scale is the thing that you change.
Yeah. And there are the deviations, right? Like I said, like I think Kratos doesn't 100% fit into that. I think that Arjun in Saros also doesn't necessarily fit into that. But it is still, there's the mold sort of around those characters that you start to go, okay, I see like how much connective tissue is here. And it just makes that like jump from playing Horizon to Ghost of Yotei to The Last of Us to God of War to Spider-Man now to Sorrows. It's so easy because it's that thing about like, it's so, you know, if you like this, then you're gonna like this, which means you're gonna like this, and it's a whole family of stuff.
And I would argue that the reason that Kratos in God of War and Arjun and Saros both are like, oh, okay, you guys actually feel like maybe you do have some gameplay ideas first rather than character property first, is because they both inherited those qualities from their past video game history, where before Sony was chasing these things. Kratos, obviously, from past God of War games, kind of inheriting some of that action game responsibility. And then Arjun and Saros, not just from Returnal, but kind of like what a Housemarque game is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like, is it worth being like, when somebody in the comments has already typed out, but Jake, you haven't talked about Astrobot? Is it worth addressing that? I don't know.
I mean, we can address
how does that fit in? How does that fit in? How does that fit in here?
I mean, if you want to talk about a thing that is trying to sell merch.
Oh my God.
I mean, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but like, I don't think that saying, well, what about Astrobot? It's a different video game, is doing the thing you want it to do, when it's just hey, please don't come for me, but it's just PlayStation Funko Pops, y'all. I mean,
PlayStation Funko Pops.
There's nothing wrong with that, but I think we'd also just be straight up about what that game is.
Now, and I gotta say, not to be a complete psychopath, but
that's what this podcast is for.
That's the direction we're going today. I feel that Astrobot is is a purposeful, controlled contrast that exists because they know that what we're saying is actually fucking true, dog.
Jake, they're gonna kill you. We're gonna find out Jake got killed by a cyanide bomb.
I think half of the appeal of Astrobot is like, fuck, we've been doing a lot of these PlayStation first party games one way for a while here.
Yeah, it feels like, oh, you thought our whole shit was just that we kill people and you're sad, huh? You thought that they're all just games about misery, trauma, and fatherhood, huh? Well, check out this fun little platformer, huh? Fuck
they give you the little amuse bouche, the palate cleanser in between meals.
It's essentially just ginger from when you go to eat sushi. It's just a slice of ginger. But I mean, here's the thing though too. It's like it's not bad, right? And I think that what you could say about all of these Sony games is like, for me, they at the very least like do hit a standard. Like a similar like bar of quality at the very least. Like I'm not looking at any of these and like I'm just like from like a scale, like a number scale perspective. I don't really look at any of these and say like, oh, they're terrible, right? None of these are 5 out of 10 games, right? They're all competent enough, but I think that they're like Sony's just at a point where being competent isn't enough for me to be able to say like, oh, this is going a step beyond, because we've seen what they are doing when they're on their A game with this sort of type of game, and I think that they're just not there anymore. And, we made an episode previously about talking about like the way that like PlayStation sequels fall into this trap. And I think it's a similar episode to what we're talking about here. But I think that the fandom surrounding these games tends to be completely fine with their sequels and iterations and new IP with stuff like Saros or whatever, not pushing the envelope particularly far.
There was this like PS3 into PS4 era for PlayStation where I was all in on PlayStation. I had a Wii U and thought it's the only video game console I regret buying. I thought I was out on Nintendo. I literally was like, damn, I guess like I've outgrown this actually. And then they kind of really won me back in the Switch era. And I think that's something that really kind of is solidifying how I feel during this conversation is the fact that like there was a time when every few years or so you would get your big Naughty Dog game.
Yeah.
And then there would be some other big cinematic game. And like when Ghost of Tsushima first shows up from that studio from Sucker Punch, it's like, whoa, this big new refreshing thing. And then there was all this other stuff sprinkled in that not a lot of people liked, but it was like, as somebody who followed kind of the PlayStation catalog in the same way that I kind of follow the Nintendo one now and pretty much pick up everything that they publish, though I didn't buy that Tomodachi Life. I'm not trying to watch an ant farm.
Dude, Elena today was like, do you know about this Tomodachi Life game? And I was like, oh, I'm like familiar. And she's like, I don't know, it seems like kind of fun. So I might be purchasing that at some point. I'll maybe report back. But
I think that there is just kind of this noticeable lack of variety that I think a lot of people in the space would say, but Jake, that's where the indie games come in. That's where the this and that games come in. And like, on one hand, I understand that.
Yeah,
I do.
like, I guess.
Yeah. But I think the thing that people sometimes misrepresent about indie games in our space is that like, I'm not supposed to like every indie game. I'm supposed to like 1% of them. That's the point.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they're supposed to function, is that I'm supposed to find one and I go, fuck, this speaks to me.
I also think that indie games are not even, what'd you say? Like, they are not like absolved from this simply by being indie games. Kena Bridge of Spirits is a game that was like touted as this big like step forward for indie game development, right? It was kind of like a Zelda, the classic Zelda type video game to my understanding. And then what's being published by Sony Interactive Entertainment later this year? Oh, it is Kena Scars of Cosmora, the sequel, which is even more of a Sony first party style like game. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of interesting that like yeah, you can say that, and not every indie game is trying to do that, right? I have no doubt that Faith the Unholy Trinity, which just launched on PS5, by the way, they're not going for that, although they are getting a movie made of them, so who knows. But what I'm getting at is like, I don't think saying like, oh well, just look to indie games that's not entirely like the thing that's gonna like quote unquote like save or fix this problem, you know?
Peter, where are my little big planets? Where are my Ratchet and Clanks?
Well, that's the
Rest
thing.
in piss, dude.
It's that Little Big Planet got turned into Astrobot.
Brems? Oh,
No, you know what I'm
you're
saying?
right.
Like,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that Sony's like, well, no, we need to have our platformer, but it can't be this weird Sackboy. Even though, you know, there was Sackboy Big Adventure, but whatever. It can't be
What about
Sackboy.
Sylvester Cooper?
Well, no, you have to turn him into.
Oh, okay, a sexy man with a daughter.
Yeah. Well, or is Sly Cooper? Is that in Sucker Punch? It is. Do you think that the reason that they don't make Infamous anymore is because Insomniac they purchased Insomniac?
I'm literally so sad. I'm literally so sad about.
I know. Do you think that they don't make Infamous anymore is because they have Insomniac now, and Insomniac is like, well, we're doing the superhero city game, and so they were like, you need to come up with something else.
Yeah. They're not trying to have multiple superhero games on the market, and one of them is fucking Spider-Man. Like that's not.
Infamous is so good though.
It is. It's so good. And dude, it's so depressing that like PlayStation. Okay, here's a little call out to PlayStation. They got to figure their shit out with those PS3 games. All right, they got to figure that shit out. I'm sick of not being able to play those games on my PS5.
Yeah.
They gotta type some numbers into their computers, send out a fucking update over to the PlayStation 5, and make it so that I can goddamn download Infamous and Infamous 2 onto my PS5.
That's the thing, because here's the thing. I know, like, obviously, like, game development is like so easy. So like, they should just like turn the knob.
Type those numbers in.
Yeah.
Type the numbers in. Send out the update.
I recently got my hands on a physical copy of Silent Hill 3 for the PlayStation 2, and I had this moment where I was like, can I put this in my PS5 and have it work? And then I was like, no, my PS5 will explode. like I obviously don't know how any of that works, but I'm like, can we just can I please play this game, please?
Dude, is there even any hope? I feel like we're at this stage right now with the big AAA video game development, and like when these games get announced, and then how many years they go on to be developed, and then the fucking studio closes down and the game never comes out anyway. Where if there was any game that I would be enthusiastic for coming out for PlayStation within the next 1, 2, 3 years, I feel like I'd know about that shit right now. But it's like, where am I even looking for something to get announced? I feel like it's just dire, dude. I feel like the next exciting PlayStation thing that's going to get announced is going to be their new console that's like a cell phone or some shit. You know?
No, that is true, right? Because it's also like, I think that, you know, if we truly are getting the PlayStation 6 in 2027, which makes me feel like a decrepit old man, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does mean that they are, I think, going to be uninterested in announcing or like talking about any games that are like meant to be PS6 games, right? Until later. Until that gets a little bit closer. But yeah, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, when I look at like these first party PlayStation games and I look at something like Soros, it just kind of bums me out a little bit, man. Returnal wasn't perfect, but I look at the way like I look at these steps that like Housemarque has taken to kind of sand off any of the interesting bits of Returnal to make it a little bit more palatable for larger audiences. I feel in a different way, similar about like Ghost of Tsushima to Ghost of Yotei. Obviously, Ghost of Tsushima I think is a lot closer in scope to what first party PlayStation thing is doing, but it just like. And I think maybe Ghost of Yotei was just a mix of different, you know, problems. But like, I guess what I'm getting at is it just bums me out that like, that this publisher that I think has a consistent bar for quality is uninterested in pushing the envelope to what they can do with that quality.
After Returnal comes out, they put out some updates for that game.
They did.
One of which added a online co-op multiplayer mode.
Pretty good.
Whoa.
Pretty good.
Another which added this like tower mode, kind of like endless thing that you could do.
It wasn't even that. It was like additional. It was like DLC story content.
And I feel that there was something there that was important for them that they were developing. And then I feel like we see Soros, and it's like the ways in which they could have iterated on Returnal. It's not like there's some cool power in Soros, and I go, shit, I never even thought about that. I never even thought about giving us a power like that. That does not exist. You know what that power is in this game? It's like a shield. It's like a fucking parry button, dude. Like what? Oh my god.
No,
it's like, and then
added a parry, and I made me be like, this is the innovation.
Yeah, no, and then it's like, it's like, where's that online co-op in Soros? Don't even, no.
And I'm sure that's for a future update, right? But still,
I don't think so. I think they've chosen their path.
You think so?
I think that everything is a question of development resources and time. And I think that doing multiplayer and making things work for two people, yada, yada, yada. If I had to guess, they have chosen their path, and that is not the path that's important to them.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Which sucks, dude.
I agree. I
wanted to see a trailer for Soros where he presses a button and then a spaceship comes down, and now he's actually flying around the level like it's Resogun. And he's playing like,
there you go.
And he's doing that, and he's going, and we're going, holy shit! That's like, man, that would have been. Or come on, dude,
just put 2 Rahul Kohlis in there.
Put 2 Rahul Kohlis. That's why you can't do it.
That's why you can't have Rahul Kohli talking. Yeah, he's a very strict contract.
One of a kind.
Yeah,
one of a kind.
Or maybe the PlayStation 5 would just light itself on fire trying to capture his handsomeness twice. That's why
we've seen it before.
Mirrors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what I am excited about though, Jake?
Tell me.
Critical Error Nation, baby.
Ooh.
The members of the Critical Error Nation are, of course, our supporters on Patreon. That's patreon.com/critical error. Last week's episode, our bonus episode that goes up every week for $5 and up patron supporters. Last week's episode, we had Giovanni Colantonio on here from Polygon.com. What a delight. What a treat. Had a great conversation with him. This week, we had kind of a long one. We talked about Pragmata. We talked a lot about...
just whining, brother.
Yeah,
just whining.
No, but it's
whining.
Not all, it wasn't all whining. Were we talking about SGF stuff, or was that you and me after we got...
That was mostly us after.
Yeah. It's a good episode, though. Like I said, we had a lot of Pragmata talk. That's a lovely video game.
Oh my god!
You and I are
I said, for anybody curious, I played through Pragmata, and that's definitely top 20 games of all time for me. And I got to tell you,
it's good.
It's not. I don't know if it's in the bottom 15.
Yes, it's not 20, 19,
no.
18. Yeah, 17.
I got to tell you, I posted this on Blue Sky. I said top 25, and now I've started saying top 20. I think I'm inching to saying top 15.
I would love, I think it'd be really funny, not funny, but just like fun if you and I did like top 30 games, like best 30 games. Do you know what I mean? We'd love to,
both of us
see your
individually?
List. Yeah, I would love to see your list.
Right. Maybe bonus pod next week.
I would like to give a special shout out, though, to the members of the Jake and Peter tier on our Patreon. These are the $20 and up members on patreon.com/critical error. This is Andrew Bolkar. This is Evan Snee and Robert Quesada. Thank you so much for supporting us. We are so excited for, I mentioned we were talking about Summer Game Fest stuff. We've got the plans in place for what we're going to be doing with that right now. We're so stoked to do it. And it happens because of the support of people on our Patreon.
Critical Error royalty members get a sound effect every week.
They do.
And I've been thinking a lot about the Sabrina Carpenter song "Man-Child." So I think that this week, I obviously can't use the music because it'll get claimed.
Sure.
But I think I'm gonna do the names to the rhythm, to the tune of Sabrina Carpenter's "Man-Child."
Connor, True Love. Yeah, kind of. Is that the song?
That was good. That was very good. Yeah. I think that's what I'm. I think that's what I'm gonna go for.
Taste of what's coming. Yeah.
That was good. All right, let's hear that sound.
Yeah.
Ansel, Trait, Andrew, Bolkar, Evan, Snee, Mayro, Robert, Quesada, Connor, True Love, Danny, Disaster, James, Pierre, Reed, Jacob, Richter, Jared, Cousineau, Sam, Woods, Mitch, Dyer, Kale, Chow, Shin, Pinkios. Or is it Shin? Maybe it's Cole. But there's a cuter word for it. I know. Thick Dick Mystic. Alex Sims, non-existent Merkley.
And to wrap things up, the pre-written portion of the podcast. Peter, this week it was your turn, correct?
Mm-hmm. It was my turn.
Thank God. Because if it was my turn...
The
scrambling in my Google Drive that would have just occurred would have read you some email drafts, I think.
some weeks I'm like, oh, I'm ready, and like I'll have written something. I wrote this before my deadline that I give for myself.
my God.
Which means that it was like I got to actually think about it. Where sometimes it'll come up, I'm like, oh fuck, it's Tuesday night. You know what I mean?
Right.
This was a Monday evening write up. So enjoy. Gencurcuinly is a word I learned last week. If you are like me, parentheses, old now, actually, let me explain it to you. It is the word genuinely with Kirk, as in Charlie Kirk, sewn into it like the human centipede. It means genuinely. Mm-hmm. Charlie Kirk has actually made his way into a lot of Gen Z and Gen Alpha slang with words like Gencurcuinly, low Kirkuinly, and a word I still don't really get, low Kirk ontological low state. What's going on with kids? Huh? I think it'd be really easy to point at all of this and go, kids are so stupid, making up words, using the name of a white supremacist who means more to people now after exploding for everyone to see on the internet than he ever did before. Don't kids know who this guy was? That his entire legacy was violence against people from the moment he got a microphone to the moment he died. I think kids are a lot smarter than we think they are. And their treatment of Charlie Kirk as the butt of the joke and as a meme illustrates something that older people don't quite grasp about Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are growing up in a time where the world is so blatantly stacked against them. The world has always been like this. Things have always been bad, but the mask has slipped pretty significantly. Companies and governments, the people at the top of the systems that define our lives, don't care to hide the way that they're behaving. And kids have picked up on that and decided to make a point with the way their culture is defined. If nothing means anything, if no one cares, then everything can just be whatever we want it to be. There is a reverence and a fear that people in older generations have for the systems of tradition, respect, and power that kids today simply do not have. They are completely uninterested in playing the game of kissing the ring in hopes that having a better life, since they know that it's all bullshit. Why give reverence to the name of a man like Charlie Kirk when he was a deeply unserious person in their eyes? A man so obviously dedicated to upholding the systems of oppression and hatred. Why not turn him into a meme that pokes fun at his life and memory with every use of the word low Kirk ontological low state, a word that we all understand and know how to use. Kids have been speedrunning the Church of Scientology. If you are like me, parentheses, old still, let me explain that to you. Kids have been breaking into the Church of Scientology building in downtown Los Angeles, attempting to get deep into the building, chart out a map of its floor plan, and see what they have inside. Groups of people, dressed up as Sonic the Hedgehog and Jesus Christ, cover their faces, put cameras on their heads, and blitz past security guards. Trying to see who can upset the cult the most has become a game as people from home analyze the faces of the members inside, create a cast of characters for public mockery. The Church of Scientology and similar institutions hold no power over these people. They are only interested in them so much as they can use them as a form of public shame and embarrassment. After all, what institution deserves public mockery more than the Church of Scientology? This is a dangerous organization with a history of red tape, but it has been defanged, turned into a joke, because if the power structures it benefits from are all made up anyway, then maybe we can prove that those structures simply don't exist, kids seem to say. I think kids are misunderstood. There are plenty of arguments to be made that provoking a sinister organization like the Church of Scientology is probably a bad idea, or by bringing Charlie Kirk's name into the public vernacular removed from the context of his hatred, that we are normalizing a man who stood for violence. I believe, however, these worries would be hand-waved away by younger people. From where I'm sitting, it seems to me like those sentiments are a small part of these systems that young people are also interested in dismantling. If we can just make everything up, then none of that matters. We will create a new language, a new culture defined by other things, they seem to say. I guess I'm happy for kids. I grew up watching the systems they challenge do whatever they want to people, grind them down to the bones, but me and the rest of my generation and the generations above me did not challenge them in the same way that kids do now. This is a new type of culture surrounding power structures that turns them into mockery, defangs their movements, and disarms their meaning. I have no idea if this is the long-term solution to disrupting the culture that's prevailed for as long as I can remember, but it seems like kids have finally entered a low Kirk ontological low state. Thank you.
Bro, what is going on with the kids?
Dude, what's going on with kids?
Are the kids okay?
I think so. I mean, like, I was really fascinated by this speed running, the Church of Scientology thing. Have you seen this?
Not even. This was the first time I had heard of it, but I like it quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like kids are like running into the Church of Scientology and like just like blitzing as fast as they can, like in like
That's
groups
awesome.
Of like 15
They should
people.
do that.
Yes, but it's like really interesting. And I was like looking at it, and I was like, it's so weird. Not weird, but it's like they just don't even care about what this organization is, or the fact that this is like a shady organization. You know what I mean? But it's not in a they don't care like it's all funny what they do, but it's like they don't care that this thing has this power. Do you kind of know what I mean?
You know, of course. And I think that there's like this. There was this New York Times thing that kind of went wide last week, and it was about these three people sat down, one of which was Hassan Piker, and the headline of the piece was like, "Hey, actually, it's cool and okay to steal," which is not an opinion. Yeah, which is not an opinion anybody on that panel actually had, but instead they were talking about this trend that was kind of observed online of micro-looting, which has always been a thing, but now it's kind of gaining popularity on TikTok because you have this attitude amongst young people who are like, well, Jeff Bezos is fucking me from every which end, so right. I'm gonna steal a lemon from Whole Foods. And it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
But the conclusion that the panelists kind of came to in their conversation that I thought was actually pretty well rendered was that these are the actions of a group of people who know that they are being taken advantage of or know something bad is happening to them, but have no language for organizing what a movement looks like and how to achieve actual material results.
Yes.
It's just kind of like acting out in response to this. So it's like, you know that there's bad stuff happening to you, and your response is micro-looting because you can't imagine a more justified response. You haven't been taught how to do one.
Yeah. So
I kind of think that's a similar thing to what's happening here.
Yeah.
Is that there is something that has made this the target, right?
Yes. And that's kind of what I say at the end though too, where I'm like, I have no idea if it's going to be a long-term solution. In fact, I probably think it's not, right? But like at the end of the day, it's still something. Do you know what I mean? And it's still kind of fascinating that like the prevailing culture, at least from my view as someone who doesn't like know any kids, right? But like,
yes.
As my view, like from the internet or whatever, is like, oh, like this seems to be the general like consensus about sort of these like more traditional power structures, or even like using the word, like the name like Charlie Kirk all over and like turning him into a meme and whatever. Like when that was initially going on, I remember feeling very weird about it because I was like, listen, this guy like wasn't funny. Do you know what I mean? Like to me, I'm like, no, this guy was like kind of a villain. And so like by turning him into this, I think it kind of like removes like the context for him. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, I know who he is, but do all these kids actually know who he is? And it might be true that they don't, that some of them don't. They only know him from memes and stuff. But at the end of the day, he has been defanged. I kind of feel like, right? He's been turned into the butt of a joke, and the joke is like, look at this stupid guy, you know? And then I think like that's probably what he deserves, you know?
Yeah. And I think like there's also something there about like I don't know. There's something there about like trauma response, I think.
Yeah.
And just like the amount of violence that people have been forced to consume to the point that like, I don't know. I feel like we've just beaten up the kids into nothing is sacred. Like nothing.
No,
it's over.
That's exactly what it is. Cause it's like, okay, like regardless how you felt about him, this guy did get like murdered in a very like upsetting public way that everyone saw, right? Like there's like no denying that. But like even the reference that you or I might have for that as an event that happened, again, regardless of who this guy was, I do think that kids fully don't have that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was like DMing people that were posting like, oh, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Like I was DMing those people being like, shut the fuck up. But at the same time, like is like a massively viewed assassination good?
Right. The answer is like
that's
no.
probably not. It's probably not good that a bunch of people like saw an assassination.
Yeah.
Like that's probably not good.
But what you're saying though, that I find fascinating is like, okay, if that happened, and you're 15 and you see that.
Yeah.
What do you even do? Like, how do you even grapple with that, you know? Or even like, obviously there, this assassination attempt on the president, this past weekend, right? And whatever fucking haze is just surrounding that and the big question marks and whatever. But even that is still just like, I feel like right now we are in this place in our culture where we're just all like, well, I guess this just happens now. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And I think that part of that is that our society is in such a dire state right now that a certain level of violence is actually necessary. Like, as was the case with the healthcare CEO that was allegedly killed by Luigi Mangione. Allegedly. Though I find it hard to believe because him and I were playing Super Smash Brothers Brawl at the time of the murder.
Oh, that's funny because he was actually playing. We were doing a Pokemon battle where he was Breloom. He was using his Breloom with me.
I think that was right before he had saved all those children from the burning building on the way to my house.
That is actually correct. Yes. No,
okay.
Yes, that is actually right. Okay. Yes.
But that level of violence, a response, of course, to kind of the insane amount of social murder that one could say that the healthcare CEO had committed, is this thing where it is, I don't know, just like a lot of murder happening.
Yeah.
Right in front of your face.
Yeah.
That's kind of unavoidable. And sometimes it's justified and sometimes it's not. I am, of course, I think it's always sad when people die.
Of course.
Oh no. 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 Do you think they'll reveal a new Sonic game at Summer Game Fest?
I certainly hope so. It's been
a while since Sonic Frontiers.
Sonic Frontiers was what, in 2022 or 3?
And I hope
perhaps?
the new one, they don't just like put you in an Elden Ring world and it's more like a fun, colorful city with, fun stuff to do.
I think that the idea of doing another one where you're just in a big open field is a mistake. I think that was unwise. Like, great experiment, glad we tried it, but maybe put me in like a fun city.
If you want a fun city and if you want great review scores, do a fun city and multiplayer where your friends can come in and run around the city with you. You could do little races.
No, Jake.
10 out of 10.
No. If you want to hit the prestige scores, you got to get James Marsden in there.